This trip wasn't just about travel, it was a test for a life that I'm about to step into. What I'm referring to is the fact that I have worked and lived overseas before, but previously, when I was working in South Africa, Lesotho, and in Egypt, I was with my family. A lot of times, when you're with your family, that becomes your unit, that becomes your micro community. And it's much different now that I will be heading overseas alone. I won't have my family. My kids are young adults now and starting on their own path. It really does feel very different taking this round the world trip alone. I was going to places where I knew people and I was staying with friends and meeting up with family. You could say it was kind of a mix in terms of the style of travel, but still, I think when you are thinking about living overseas, especially for me at this stage of my life, there's a lot of questions, right? What does it look like to build community now when I'm mid career in a leadership role? And I'll just name something that everybody knows, but being a leader in a community is often lonely. Hi, I'm Kalima Fergus Ayele. I'm an international school leader, CEO, and founder of Round Trip Ticket Home, where we support schools and school leadership teams with using design thinking tools to build communities and cultures of connection and belonging. I'm talking about the ways in which my round the world trip, where I visited Spain, India, Vietnam, Singapore, and Japan before returning home to New York, really impacted my identity as a leader, particularly as a woman of color in leadership in school. And in many ways, I really gravitated toward design thinking tools because design thinking is a human centered approach to problem solving, which allows us to leverage our empathy as well as our imagination to come up with solutions to some of the complex challenges that we're facing. Particularly in a lot of schools, there's the challenge of leadership transitions and how do you create a sustainable leadership culture that can withstand all of the internal and external changes that are taking place. And so, in my journey around the world, around our beautiful planet, which I am always feeling joyful and privileged to live on, I recognize that I was able to learn so much from observing different cultures and different perspectives. And it really allows us sometimes when we step out of our own way of seeing the world to borrow another perspective on life. And that can be valuable sometimes. You know, a lot of times in education, we talk about this concept of windows and mirrors. So, windows allow you to take a peek into someone else's world, and mirrors allow you to actually look at your own narratives. And sometimes a little bit of distance from that is healthy. I would say, in so many ways, as much as we value sometimes the approaches that we take, there are so many things that are changing in our external world that are showing us that we need to adapt and change as well. For me, being able to travel alone was a test, was a pilot for me being able to transition into my new role in a new country. And when I talk about the new role in a new country, I'll be stepping into the role of assistant principal at the upper school in Casablanca. And when I think about moving to a new city and a new country, it can be challenging and sometimes it's overwhelming. There's so much uncertainty, you know. I mean, I am preparing for a visit, which I would love to get some ideas about that. If you have any, please drop them in the chat. But while I'm preparing for stepping into this new role, I'm also thinking about what that looks like to intentionally build community even in advance, maybe even with other international school leaders. Now that I've been away from international schools for more than 5 years, really, since I came back to New York. And so I'm not that connected with a lot of international school leaders at this point in time. And so what it looks like for me is joining those calls or leading some conversations so that I can get to know more international school leaders and that they can get to know me as well. And intentionally joining conversations where people are talking about things that I'm interested in, right? How to build connection and culture in schools, how to design transitions, right? Those are the conversations that are happening, and those are the conversations conversations that I am committed to being a part of as well. And so I think about the ways in which just stepping out of my comfort zone, going through some challenging moments, but then reminding myself that those challenges are not going to last forever is really preparation for this next chapter. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you have any comments, please leave them below. Also, if you have any questions about my experience, I would love for you to leave them for me in the chat, and that, may inform the next video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now.